Welcome to the next episode of Behind the Line Eats. If you haven't been to Rune, you got to get here soon. Let's see what they're cooking up today. All right, we're here with Sean Richardson from Rune Restaurant. We've been looking forward to filming this episode for a minute, so thanks for taking the time. I know you're a very busy guy. Just take us back to I think a little bit about your origin story in your culinary career, and then what started Rune. I think that's what I think people want to hear.
Yeah, I started at the Oyster Bar a couple blocks that way, and I was I think 18 or 19, going to school at IPFW at the time, and for English, creative writing, and just trying to pay my bills. I had one of my brother's good friends moved, because I came from North Manchester, moved up here. One of my brother's good friends moved up here. It was like, hey, dude, you want a job? Like, we're hiring. Have you ever been to the Oyster Bar?
Yeah, yep.
They've got that like pit.
Yep.
They do this shit. So it was like, he's like, we got this salad making station. Like, if you want to come and work, like we can give you as many or as little hours as you want. I was like, cool, that sounds awesome. And was working 38, 40 hours a week. And just like that over there was the only taste of like a wild pirate kitchen that I've ever really had. I feel like when I got into it in like the early 2000s, that whole like 80s, 90s crazy like kitchen culture was, at least in Fort Wayne.
Yeah, for sure.
Maybe in like bigger cities it was still relevant, but those guys over there were wild, like just like a lot of crazy shit going on. And it was fun, and we had a blast. And when I graduated college, I was like, I want to keep cooking. I didn't really know. I took some journalism jobs in town, and it was like fine, but they're too many parameters.
Yeah.
I'm not like good with parameters. I went out to DeQueeze, and I didn't know Aaron at the time at all. But when you like started talking to people, and when you were looking around in Fort Wayne, like in the area, what's the best restaurant? It was a DeQueeze. Like that was it. And it was funny. The day I went out there, I was just like looking like a scrub, and I met Aaron out on the farm, the DeQueeze farm, and he was like in his whites, and there was this dude like walking around out there with him. I had no clue who he was. And then afterwards we did our interview, and he's like, do you know that's like Jean-Georges von Richter? And I was like, no. And I still didn't know who that was. I was like, oh, cool, right, Ron, whatever. And then I went home and like looked it up, and I was like, holy shit, this guy's like massive. He was doing the Blessings for a Backpack.
Okay, I was wondering, wait, why was he here? That's a crazy name to have him.
Yeah, so he was out there just like looking at the farm, checking out the cattle. And then like I worked there for 3.5 years, and that's like what really was like, oh, food is more than like just cooking on a line, I guess, and figuring out whole animals. At that time they were dealing with Hawkins, and they were doing the whole chicken thing. They had their own pigs, Mangalitsa pork, so they were getting half pig would come in every now and again, and I started learning how to butcher. And that's like where the creativity from me like really started, just figuring out what can we do with all this stuff from the pig, right? Fat, skin, hocks, trotters, heads, all that. And so then from there, the Chef's Table on Netflix came out, the first season. And that just like blew my mind, dude. I was like, what is going on? And so I got on the computer and emailed Dan Barber, and it wasn't him that replied, obviously.
Yeah.
It was somebody that was like, and so again, this is like lack of experience. Somebody was like, you want to come out here and work for a month? Great, go ahead. And I'm like, oh my God. I get out there and realize they've got like 30 stages, what I'm like, yes, but it was still like super cool. And that was like my first taste of like real, like,
What year was that? What did you say?
that was probably 2013 or something like that.
How does we keep up with the timeline? Yeah. So
Yeah. So, I graduated college in 2013, I think.
okay.
My timeline's awful.
Okay.
So the time, yeah. But anyway, I went out there and like worked for a month, and that was cool because that restaurant's in Pocantico Hills. But on the weekends, I would just take the subway into the city, just like bounce around New York City and like start going to all these restaurants that I'd read about and looked up on the internet and stuff. And then I did, and which was cool about DeQueeze, because they were like, Aaron had done a big stage at a restaurant called the Fat Duck in London, which is like hugely influential. And so he was really supportive of his cooks doing that, getting out and like covering for him and stuff. So I also ended up going out to France and studying with this woman, Kate Hill. And she was an expat who had moved there like 30 some years ago. who bought this property and started collabing with this like long generational French butcher. And I went out there and stayed at like one of her neighbors' houses for a month. And just like every day we'd be doing like this old kind of like grandmother French cooking, like cassoulets and rillettes and stuff like that. And then we would work at the butcher shop like once or twice a week. Wow. And so that was like seeing a different side, but also that appreciation for food. Because, Europeans, they've got a lot of shit right. But for their appreciation for food and for quality and stuff is like there. And came back from that, and Aaron and I started getting into cocktails really heavy, making bitters and like all that stuff. We started these little pop-up bars that we called the Golden. We did them at weird spots in town. Like we did the old Utopian.
I would barely remember. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Or whatever. There was like a high-end like office furniture next to Copper Spoon. I can't remember what the name of it was. M&K or A&G.
Oh, yep. So wait, were you getting bored with food, or what made you do cocktails? Was this like,
And I think I was getting a little bored. And I don't know why at the time, but I think the cocktail thing was just more new. I know the Death and Company cocktail book came out, and I was like, oh man, this is awesome. And I don't know, like it seemed like, that's a good question.
well, I guess to make that shift, I was like, was it the infusion of the bitters, the spices maybe, but the cocktail?
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild because we were like, both of us, he was the executive chef. At the time, I was the sous chef. And both of us were like, we're going to open a cocktail bar, like straight up dive cocktail bar. And we're going to do like everything from scratch, super rad cocktails, but we want it to be like a dive bar. And so that was the plan. That was like the business plan. And then the Ash building was going up and we had an opportunity. And as soon as we got that opportunity to like go into that space, we switched back. And I think that happened because at the time, do you remember Patty?
Yeah.
Patty Nix had moved back from Chicago. She was working at like Sepia, which is like a Michelin star in Chicago. And she had moved back here and she was looking for a job. And I was like, do you want to like help us open this restaurant, be like our bar director? And I think as soon as I like worked one, we did a pop-up together in the top of the law firm that's by the baseball field or whatever there above Copper Spoon. And I was like watching her and I was like, I don't know shit about cocktails. Like, what am I doing? You know what I mean? Like, I knew the basics, but I had a couple of her drinks and I was just like, yeah, this is.
So you think you're cosplaying a bartender for a little bit?
That was my cosplaying stage. So we like flipped back. We're like, okay, we're doing a full-on restaurant. And that was pretty tough. The Golden situation was pretty tough. It was like really anticipated. I felt like everybody, not just in town, but like all around Indiana, the Midwest, they were like, I don't know if they wanted to pick it apart or what it was.
People were excited from every angle though, because I think the timeline and when the Golden opened, I feel like that was a resurgence of downtown rematuring again with some new local independent operators. And then you guys are like the next basically massive wave, brand new building that changed the skyline technically, right? So, hey, what's going to go in there? I think there was a lot of eyes.
Yeah, it was a lot of excitement. And then when we got started, a lot of critiquing. It felt like everybody wanted it for a different reason. And we were pretty experienced. Like, I mean, no doubt about it. We were kind of like wild at that time. We were just like, look, we just go in here and just like make good food, and it's going to be all good. A lot of like partying, late nights, just like dumb shit, which now I'm like, I want to finish at 9, going home, but not 10:30 now, But it was super fun and learned a lot. I think we were open for 18 months or whatever, and it was pretty brutal. Like, I received an email, and it was like, you're done in 10 days, basically.
Also, is that abrupt then?
It was abrupt. We had like a meeting, and, everybody had their opinions, and I was 20, I don't know, I was like 27 or something. I'm 37 now, and I just was like, I wasn't going to budge for anybody.
Yeah.
I was like real stubborn. I was really like, no, like, dude, that was like a big like ego thing. You know what I mean?
Well, I was going to say, like, I was like, full transparency to everybody in the audience. I feel like that's when, hey, like the chef doesn't want to serve it that way. And people are way more used to that. Like, what the heck? I just want some cake. We're
something going, no modifications.
Yeah.
On a menu.
But what I like, what I appreciate now is kind of like your ability to talk about it. Like, what did you have to have some kind of soul searching, like, period? Obviously, like you felt like, okay, you went through all these culinary experiences and now this is Sean's life experience. like, the next evolution of you, like, describe to me that, I think that's important.
Yeah, after the Golden, I was like bouncing around a couple different jobs. And then Corey from Conjure was like, he reached out to me. It was like, hey, I think Conjure had been open for a few months, the one on Columbia.
Yeah, yeah.
And he was like, I'm trying to do some food. Like, would you be interested in doing some food? And I was like, this is perfect. Daytime. He like did not care about what I was doing because he was like, I just trust you to be able to put stuff on there. And myself and a dude who I worked at the Golden and the Oyster Bar previously, Mike, who still works here, he was on board. And that was super fun. And I didn't really know that much about coffee, so that was good. The roaster over there, Adam, is like a brilliant coffee mind. And so to get to learn from him was really great. But yeah, that was the soul sorcery. It was like 4 years, and then it started to be like, I mean, I was serving like some pretty cool shit there I felt like, but a lot of avocado toast, a lot of like scrambled eggs. And I think that was like seeing people's reaction to that food, and I wasn't pushing for anything at that time. I was just like existing.
Yeah.
I was like, this is what I know how to do. I need to make some money. I want to be in an environment that's like nice, and I still don't want parameters.
Yeah, for sure.
And Corey offered that to me, and like it was really nice of him. But seeing how people were like reacting to that food, and then the connections and friendships I was making by being able to just like talk to people across the bar, I was like, man, I don't know like if the plates people are eating off of, the chairs people are sitting in, I don't know if that shit matters. I think people just want like really delicious food in like a place where they feel value. And so I started to be like, I can do this again, after like 4 years. And Rune started as pop-ups at Borteza.
Yep.
I got reached out to just like a bunch of people I cooked with before. Cody, who's the sous chef here, helped me on a couple dudes from the Golden, service staff, a couple people that served at the Golden. I met May at Conjure, and she had had a bartending history before coffee in Indy. And so I was like, would you want to like make the cocktail menus for this? And that's like collaboration really started there because Paige from Ophelia's let us like piggyback on their liquor license.
Yeah.
Super nice of them to do that. And we were doing just like tasting menus at Forteza. We started off doing Friday and Saturdays, but then I realized that like everyone's working other jobs. That's like the hot times for restaurants, obviously.
Yeah.
So we just started doing one night. But man, it was still just like that evolution of like, I just want to like enjoy this. I don't want to like have this pressure. And it's all the pressure you put on yourself. It's all that ego shit of being like, I'm the best at this. And like, check out this new technique that I'm doing. Yeah. Whatever. And like all that's awesome. But I think as I started like looking back at my life and like where, like why did I enjoy food like enough to like keep doing this? And it was because like my grandparents would come into town. My parents were like fine cooks. My grandparents, they were like from a generation, they did shit from scratch.
Yeah.
They would show up with like whole chickens and pork, and we'd make sausage and chicken noodle soup and like all this stuff, and like realizing that like that's the memories that like I look at and I'm like, man, that was joy.
Yeah.
Like no bullshit, just fun.
I've been saying this thing, like I have a like, little saying, the one this year has been like, I just want to feel something again.
Yeah.
That's what I keep telling you every day. I just want to feel something again, right? And I think that's kind of what it sounds like to me is like, yeah, like what's feeding my soul, right? And a plate, there's math, you have to sell it, make sure. Yeah, but I think with those pop-ups, it kind of got a little bit of both worlds in a way.
Yeah,
So.
the pop-ups were nice because it was just like a reintroduction. And I think I still had like a little bit of steam from the Golden, so I was able to fill seats that way. But then it was like, all right, look for brick and mortar, and I was searching around for over a year, looking at different spots. We put a whole build out together for the old Richard's Bakery on Wells. We had that all kind of done. We had a quote for it and everything, and to talk about new construction, it came back. It was gonna be like another multi-million-dollar build out, and everybody in the room was like, let's not do this again. Like, let's not make the same mistake. Like, why? And so I bounced around, and then I saw actually Natasha, my wife, saw Chad from Trouble post and they're going to be closing. We live just down the road. And I reached out, and he was like, yeah, dude, like we're going to be out of here in a few months. And that's like where we came here. But over the past like 20 months, I feel like I think we've been open for like 20 months now.
Mm-hmm.
It's changed a lot because I feel like I'm still like finding that, like, I want this place to be like, I worked in this restaurant called the Main View when I was in high school, when I was like 16. It's where all the kids worked, and the owners, everybody knew the owners, like, in town. They were a huge part of the community. They, like, cared about people coming in their restaurant. They would come out and touch your table. They knew you. They knew your name. They knew your kids' names, like, all that stuff. And the more I started thinking about, like, again, where was that joy? It was like going to the Mayview, dude, and eating, like, chicken strips or whatever. You know what I mean? And so to me, I was like, this restaurant needs to be like a balance of like all this time that I've spent learning technique and learning about the fine dining world. Because Natasha and I have traveled around everywhere and eaten out, like, all from that chef's table, dude.
Mm-hmm.
We went out to Favicon in Sweden.
Dang.
Yeah, we went to Anna Ross's place in Slovenia. So it was like we started to use that as like, this is like our life now.
Yeah.
We're just gonna travel to places and find dinner, and then we'll like have a vacation. You know what I mean? And so like take all those experiences and like everything I've learned from like eating that food, but then partner it with like a neighborhood vibe, like the Mayview. We do like Friday night steak nights and baked potatoes, I don't know, that's what we're trying to do. And I think we started off, and because you've opened multiple things now, it's tough.
Yeah.
First like 6 months, 2 years, a lot of like, who are you like
100%. I think you get the staff that tries you out, and then someone might not come back for another year before, like, let me try it again. But I mean, you guys are in a unique location with being on Broadway. There is a lot of traffic, but sometimes that traffic doesn't stop. And I think we're primarily downtown, and there's foot traffic, but then you got winter, and now no one's walking down there, and it's like, I don't know. I think as for people watching, like, people think it's like always sunshine and rainbows, but it's not. Like, there's just some glitz and fun to show the brand, show the pretty food, but there's some real management going on behind it, emotional management. You're like, yeah, we're really passionate about this, but we gotta make it pay the bills.
emotional management, but the emotional management, like, everybody on your.
Oh, 100%. It's like, hey, business is there, it's not there. It's and although we run on fumes and that, like, hey, we're gonna see us through. But I don't know. I think that's probably where I feel most self-conscious now. Is like, hey, we're doing a lot of things, earning through a lot of cash, but at the end of the day, what are we doing? We want to create some opportunities for our staff members and grow the brand in terms of like being in people's hearts, right? It's like it can't just be food as a utility necessarily, right?
Yeah.
And I think Rune kind of, flips that on its head, right? It's like, I want it to be comfort food, but it can't just be something that just only gets you full only, right?
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely like pushing in the kitchen now. Now we've gotten like our footing a little bit. I think that we found like what the identity of the dishes needs to be. I think it's like number one's always going to be delicious. Like, it always needs to be delicious, no matter what kind of flair you're using to put something on the plate. Like, if it doesn't taste awesome, like if the acid and the salt aren't right, then it's like, forget about it. Sure. The sourcing is like the second pillar. I feel like, we have to always make sure that we're trying to source the best stuff ever.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily need to be from Indiana. Sometimes
The regional.
yeah. I mean, we use Rancho Gordo a lot. They're out in California, but they have excellent meats.
Sure.
But yeah, I think that's like what I want out of this place now, which I don't even know a year ago. I think a year ago it was still like, there was still some of that ego where I was like, I mean, the Golden, we were nominated for James Beard, which was like crazy.
Yeah.
And as part of me is like, it'd be nice to be back on that list again.
100%. Yeah, for sure. 100%.
But also that can't be like the driving force, because like I realize like that's like kind of selfish, because you have we're a small team, we're 12 people, but it's like they're relying on not just me, but everybody making decisions based on like, how do we keep this business making money?
Yeah.
And who knows, it being on the James Beard list is going to be, so it's important.
Yeah.
But it's not like the only thing.
True.
And so I'm trying to find that, like, what is that?
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't realize it already been 20 months of being open. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think Smoke Nights will be about a year here soon. It goes by quick, dude. But I think if you don't just stop to smell things, it does go by quick. But your community can either leave you behind or keep updating them. I think we were talking about like social media and marketing and stuff like that in the last meeting, is like the importance of like staying in the pulse of people knowing, and they might not come to you, but they at least know that you still exist. Because I think every time I see it on a restaurant, when a restaurant closes on Facebook, the first comment is, I wish I would have known about it. I would have gone. I'm like, why is that always a reaction? You know what I mean? And it's a little bit depressing in a way at that point, but I mean, I think businesses, everyone does. I think Port Wayne's good about supporting small business,
so too.
but I sometimes hit like an identity crisis. I think is like, well, we're trying really hard, but none of you guys are coming enough.
Yeah.
And then you're going to go to a big box store and they're packed.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I was like,
Yeah, I've been like, I think one of the big goals for this place and like our current team is to like see some of these people, what can they do on their own, maybe.
yeah, mm-hmm.
You know, and that's it's tough sometimes, as I'm sure you know, to like look out a year or two.
Yep.
And you're like so month to month and week to week as it comes to finances. But like for me, like I would love nothing more than to have, you know, like somebody like Cody or Mike come up to me and be like, hey man, I think I'm gonna like try to open my own spot,
100%.
you know, and then however I can support that, whether it is maybe lucky enough to be able to support it financially, or if it's just like giving them the info and the stuff that I didn't know and like some of the hurdles so they don't have to deal with it as hard. But I think that's how we're really gonna get a scene here. We
100%.
need like creative people feeling like they can step out and do something on their
I
own.
don't think so. Is there anything that you feel like people need to know about Rune, or what you want them to know when they come in here, how they should feel?
Yeah, I think it's important that people know that like our team is doing everything we can to give them like the best experience, you know, and I know that that sounds like a lot of like buzzwords or like pretty cliche, but I think every week we're sitting down at a manager meeting and we're dissecting, you know, how do the menus look? Are we, you know, we're hit people with like a little card now at the end of like when we give them their checkbook back with just like the farms and stuff that we or the food, you know, or it's like, and we're in the back tasting, we're sourcing, you know, somebody in the kitchen might be like, hey, you know, like there was a rice dish that I had on and I was using just like basmati, like kind of basmati. And Cody was like, hey man, like you ever thought about like Anson Mills, like getting some rice from Anson Mills? And so it's like, we get it. We get Carolina Gold rice in it, and it's like way better, you know? And I think that's like, I want the people to know when they come here that like we care to the point to where like we're constantly re-evaluating what we're doing. That could sound boring to the guests to be like, I don't really give a shit about that. But I think that's important because I feel like too often restaurants go on like autopilot, you know, and you start to lose like personality and identity. And I feel like guests can feel that, you know. I feel like that's like, I mean, chain restaurants, they're on autopilot.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not like bad mouthing chain restaurants. It is what it is. But I think that's why when we say like support local, come to a local restaurant, it's because like, don't you want to be here? Like spending your money with somebody who like really cares about it. And then in turn is like spending money with Wood Farms, Gunthorpe Farms, Hawkins, Dan's Country Gardens, Berry Hill, like these dudes that are in the community, like growing food for the community, doing meal giveaways. So yeah, I don't know. And I think that like, I didn't plan on being a pasta like restaurant destination, but it just so happened that like everybody in our kitchen's super stoked on pasta and they've really taken it and run with it. So I think if for people to know that like everybody asks, where should I eat? I'm always like, if you've never been here, like get a pasta first. Start with that. And our wine list is awesome. I'm really proud of our wine list. We've got somebody who started here as a bartender now curating the wine list, and it's small, but it's like the models follows like our sourcing the food, right? From the source of the wine. And our cocktail list is always super creative, original, and like probably the most like terroir driven thing that we have here. So I just feel like it's like, what are you looking for? And we can do it, you know?
Well, that is awesome. Dress it up, dress it down, comfort, because you guys started doing a bar menu, is that right? And are you still doing like the pasta hours and things like that?
So we got the pasta hour. This will be the first time that I've said this out loud, but I think we are going to cut it on Fridays and Saturdays.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And just start focusing like the happy hour thing during the week, and then let Fridays and Saturdays be what they will. But the bar menu we just started last week. And again, it's the idea of like, I think what I don't want is people to think that when they come here, they have to be spending like $100 a head.
Yeah.
Have to be eating like this long drawn out meal. If that's not what, like you should just buzz by and grab like a High Life. And I think we've got like a Sloppy Joe on the bar menu right now, you know? So, and I love bar food, right? But it's like, we're definitely not, it's not bar food, but it's just like that feeling of like, just come and hang out for a second.
Yeah, just hop in.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think we're a nicer restaurant, we need a reservation. It's like, no, pop in, there's probably most likely a seat, but
How do you feel about reservation system?
Reservation systems in general, like, I mean, I don't like it when people book a reservation, don't come in and just wasted the time. But no,
You think they're necessary?
I think for peak seasonality, yes. But I think Fort Wayne loves the idea of a reservation, though. So I think it anchors them in for that commitment. But
I know that's not interesting content, but
I think for some of the viewers, it is for the deeper industry lore. But for real, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. I think it's important for people to know your story and like where it's growing and evolving. We do need the community to support us to keep doing things and keep trying. So again, thanks for taking the time to tell your story. Appreciate it.
thank you, man.